Preface to say, I'm posting this BC. I didn't feel I was in immediate danger per se once the encounter was over. I'm just detailing an old and kinda weird experience. So somebody followed me for about an hour. At first I didn't know they were following me. I thought they were what I like to call, road dog, like my road trip buddy going on the same route that I'd inevitably have to part ways with. Nah. I pull into my destination, La DDA, and they pull in behind me. Thankfully, I have ADHD and a million things to gather and do before exiting my car, because as I was doing so, they honked at me, motioning for me to get out of my car. I did not, because WTF. I call my sister and explain the situation, and she urges me to drive a few blocks to her job. I put in drive, pull out, and this dude comes after me. At this point, I'm realizing what's happening and I start speeding through this town, down alleys, streets that not many people know, speeding, all the while he's on my tail. I pull into the gas station my sister works at, and he also pulls in, facing the store while I'm facing the opposite direction. I park and call my mom. I have my mom on the phone and this dude gets out, walks over, motions for me to roll my window down. I do BC, I'm just a girl, LMAO, and he says, may I get in? And smiles. The most obscure shit of my life. I laughed uncomfortably and said, no? And rolled my window up. My mom's on the line losing her mind. You need to call the borough police right now. So I'm like, you okay? And I do. They say drive to the station and we will have somebody meet you outside. I'm like, dang, okay, sick, why didn't I think of this on my own? I start on my way. He peels out after me. I literally only had to go 8 blocks, but it was so scary, lol. I pulled up in front of the station. No officer. What a shock, not one of the 15 officers in this 7,000-person town could come outside. TF. Anyway, it was a parallel park situation. I pull up in front of the spot. Dude blocks the spot, motions for me to keep driving. I literally get the light courage of who even knows. Bruce Lee, idfk. Anyway, I get as nasty as I can without actually telling this man off, and he sped away. This was at least 5 years ago. I think about it a lot and wish I asked him why he wanted to get in my car. Last night around 9 p.m., my niece and I ran to the store about a mile from our house to grab some trash bags and ice cream. There were about 7 to 8 cars in the parking lot in front of the grocery store. I used the side entrance to the parking lot where it was a little darker / further away from the other cars. On the corner between the shopping center and street is a very small pond. As we were leaving, I pulled up to the stop sign about to turn out of the parking lot and onto the street. I stop, we both look over and see a man with light hair and a flannel standing next to and facing the pond, holding a shovel or rake, something with a very long handle, and aggressively pushing at the ground with it where the grass goes down to the edge of the water. Both of us are like, what the hell? And I see him turn quickly and look at us through the window. At this point, I still haven't processed what's happening as I'm also focused on driving. So I turn back to look at the road and pull away while saying, what the hell is he doing out here? Then my niece says, he just ran after your car. I look back and don't see him, as I already turned the corner around the trees / bushes. I'm like, girl, what? Are you serious? I asked her if she was exaggerating / being paranoid, or if he actually came after my car. She said she was serious. He charged at my car holding the shovel / rake thing. I was trying to process it and decided not to turn around and go back because we're 2 young women and I don't want to do anything stupid. I drove home and told my parents, who suggested calling the police just in case he was up to no good. I called and briefly explained the situation, and the guy definitely did not take me seriously, lol. He asked, could he have been clearing it so water could drain? I said, I think if that was the case, he would have a car or truck with him and it wouldn't be late at night. I didn't see a vehicle nearby, he was just out there. So he said he'd send someone down to check it out, and if anything else happens, call back. That was that. I thought about it all night and I'm still bothered by it. I work in the same shopping center, so when I drove by today I looked and didn't see anything. Not that I could see very well while moving at 10 miles per hour. Anyway, all I can think is, what was he doing? The spot he was standing in is surrounded by businesses on all sides. It's not like he was on his own property. They would not have someone working on landscaping at 9 p.m. on Easter Sunday, in the rain, alone, and with no vehicle. And if he was doing something shady, Why in a public setting where people can see you? What was he doing there? Anyone have any ideas? It's driving me nuts. I'd like to talk about a kid I'll refer to as Cal. So Cal in 6th grade, you see, had a crush on a girl I'll refer to as V. That sounds harmless at first, and it was until one day V and an acquaintance of mine I'll call Luke were on a walk during recess. Luke and V are talking, but then Luke looks to his side and sees someone standing there with a blank expression on his face. It was Cal. Not hiding behind a tree or anything, just staring dead set at V in particular out in the open. As you'd expect, this freaked the two out, and Luke told Cal to go away, which he listened to. But even after it was made clear that V wasn't interested, since he quite literally just creepily watched her, he continued to pretty much stalk V the entire school year. Thankfully, this stopped in 7th grade, but the story doesn't end there though. In 7th grade, Cal was much more chill and stayed to himself most of the time. He even showed me memes in his phone from time to time, from his Discord server of all places. The server was full of a lot of strange-looking accounts, and Cal got annoyed, almost mad, when I asked about them. But since I only was around him when he showed me memes, I never paid attention to what else he did. Now he started staring strangely at a friend of mine I'll call Gia, particularly at a, let's just say, a rather suggestive area. Then when she was playing tag with some other students, Cal invited himself in it. But what he did made me sick. Now Callery's a pretty slow runner, but he somehow caught up to Gia, and when he tagged her in one of her breasts. Although Gia brushed it off as an accident, he did it in the same spot a second time. Now it was crystal clear what his intentions were. It truly makes me sick that he saw her playing tag as an opportunity to literally sexually harass her. And Cal never got physical like that with V, however I suspect that he hates Gia. As one day, Gia did something that made Cal really mad. I think she knocked his lunch off a table on accident or something like that. At least that's what Gia told me. And temporarily he told Gia to go away whenever she got even remotely close to him. And when she did, Cal started hissing at her, almost like a cat. It was really weird, but this stopped in just a few weeks or so. Fortunately though, that's all he's done, which I'm glad for, though I still see him around of course, and he only hangs out in 3 places. Those being a bench he sits at all recess, the table he sits alone at during lunch, and he goes into the bathroom for up to 15 minutes. I have no idea what he could possibly be doing in there for that long, and I don't think I want to know. I can't believe I used to hang out with this kid. It's truly disturbing that someone who seems so humble can be a completely different person without your knowledge. I'm just glad he stays out to himself now, and knows better than to show his face around us again. This happened a few hours ago. I, 22F, was walking back home from work, and this random guy, who looked to be in his 30s, was on his scooter, kept on honking behind my back. The road was pretty empty, so I wondered what his deal was to honk. I didn't turn back to look at him. I just kept walking. As he was passing by me, he slowed down and looked at me. He stopped honking and kept his vehicle moving. So I thought he mistook me for someone else and realized I wasn't who he was looking for or something. Suddenly this guy raised his left arm and gestured as if he was squeezing in the air, like he wants to grab me, all while his vehicle was still moving. He was looking in the rearview mirror to see my reaction while doing it. I was expressionless because my brain was slowly registering what was happening. He honked again and did the same gesture, looking in the rearview mirror one more time before taking a left turn and disappearing. He wanted to make sure I saw it, and that's why he honked and slowed down. For a little bit of background, I'm a 24F who loves scary stories, horror movies, true crime, etc. It takes a lot to scare me, though I haven't actually experienced many terrifying, life-threatening events, fortunately. On to the story. This was during the middle of August in North Texas summer 2023, so the nighttime temperatures were around 100 degrees. My dad and one of my brothers, who's 11, drove an hour north into the countryside to go stargazing for my brother's scout merit badge. There are some twisty gravel roads in the forest as you approach Black Creek Lake. We got to see a coyote, a deer, and 2 raccoons. We live in a city, so we don't often see such animals. We thought that'd be our excitement for the night. We then finally made it to the recreational park grounds beside the lake. Layout is simple. If you're standing in the round parking lot, then the campgrounds are to the north and west, the lake is south, and the path in and out is east of us. There are no official campgrounds east of this recreational area, which is important for later. We got there around 10 p.m. and set up. We were able to successfully see some stars through my telescope as well as Saturn, which was exciting for us. Throughout this whole time, though, there were two parties, or what might have been one group in the parking lot and surrounding nearby area. One party was kayaking and then later fishing from the boat ramp area west of us. To the north in the lot were two cars. From that direction, we were constantly hearing a loud, irritating voice of a woman who was obviously in a bad mood and didn't want to be there. She continuously cursed at someone or no one in particular, and at one point was mad at someone for taking her keys and obstructing her from driving, which obviously made it sound like she was drunk or under some other influence. At one point in the night, around 11 p.m., we hear someone loudly, sporadically, honk one of the car horns over and over in random patterns. Then we hear the obnoxious woman rudely tell someone to wake up over and over again, then proceeding to hold down the horn for a few seconds at a time and continuing her assault on the horn in our ears. By this point, my family and I are just about ready to leave due to this loud commotion. I personally was fixing to go over there myself and tell her off, but I knew that probably wasn't the best idea. I definitely didn't want to put myself and my unborn baby in any danger. Then, for about 20 to 30 minutes, we were able to watch the stars in relative peace with little noise coming from the other two parties. Fortunately, none of these people were directly involved with what happened next, but it may have been the cause of it. Just before midnight, we packed up our stargazing stuff and got in the car. Now, the gravel path to exit is up a slight hill or slope, meaning from the parking lot, you can't see past where the path goes up and around a couple trees. We drive up the hill, and just as the headlights came back down to illuminate the path in front of us and the trees to our right side, it was right then and there that we see a man, wearing only black shorts and no shirt. The timing was straight out of a horror movie, to just suddenly see someone out of nowhere. He was in his late 20s or 30s, and had short dark hair. Just as the light hit him, he was standing and walking right there, just to the right of our car in front of us at a very close distance, only a couple feet away. Guy had been walking towards our direction, and upon seeing us quickly raised both his arms to flip us off with both hands. He keeps his hands and arms raised, and is quickly and loudly saying something to us with anger or something in his voice. We couldn't understand what he was saying though, since we had the radio on, and all this happened quickly. The second the man saw us, he started walking toward our car faster. My dad was driving slowly initially to avoid the agitated man, thinking he might need help. My dad in a confused voice says, "What is he doing?" But I just reply with, "Nope, go, go, go." And we sped off. I knew that this was not a situation where we needed to stick around and ask questions. It freaked me out a little imagining what would have happened if the guy had reached the car a few seconds later if we hadn't sped off. I'm not very familiar with my dad's car, and it scares me that I might have ended up pressing the wrong button to lock my door, and the guy could have opened it and done who knows what. We left and never had anything else happen, but we did wonder who that guy was and where he came from. The direction he was walking from had no official campgrounds, only the forest. Maybe he lived in one of the scattered houses in the woods we'd passed by on our long journey. I wondered why he had been walking in our direction, toward the recreational area. My best theory is that he wanted to confront the group that had been honking the horn and waking up the entire forest, but upon seeing our car leave, maybe he thought it had been us making the racket. Even if that's not it, or the man needed help, which is not likely considering his reaction to us, I couldn't help but feel a sense of danger. I hope that no harm came to those other two parties that night. Sorry that this is kinda long, but I had to explain the details. As I, 27F, work remotely, I only go into the office once a month and I take the train. In January, when I was going back home from the office, I was walking to the entrance of the train station along with many other people. As I'm generally more alert of my surroundings, I noticed the older man walking in front of me with glasses and holding a suitcase, looking like a working professional as well. As this is a newer station, once you entered it, you have to take the escalator down either 1 or 2 floors depending where you're going. I made a mistake by taking an escalator that goes straight down to the lowest floor and should have taken the one that led to 1 floor lower. So I just waited to reach the platform to go take another escalator up a floor. While still going down, I turned around out of habit to check my surroundings and noticed the same older man just 2 steps behind me. Keep in mind this is a long-ass escalator with no one else on it. Why is he so close to me and previously he was in front of me when going to the entrance? I was immediately on high alert, and once I reached the bottom I noticed this platform had literally 0 people. The train must have just left. I fast walked to the escalator to go up and I saw the man also walking fast behind me, so I just ran up the escalator and thank God. My train actually arrived when I reached the platform which had a lot of people. I darted inside and looked back. Saw the man also rushing to get in the train, so I immediately walked so fast through the crowded train towards the other end and sat down beside a girl. I figured if the man was looking he couldn't see me through the crowd. I had to get off the train after 3 stops to change to another train, and the whole way I just kept looking back to make sure the man didn't follow me. I was so terrified. I told my boyfriend and he was glad I noticed the man quickly. I told my friends as well, and they empathized but also pointed out that the man might also be lost and just followed me because I seem to know where I'm going, lol. While that is possible, I just don't want to take that chance. One time I was in uni and going down the elevator with an old man to the car park to drive to school around 7 a.m. and when that man came in, I immediately noticed he didn't press any floor buttons. When I reached my floor and got out I was relieved at first because he didn't follow me out, but once I was out of the elevator lobby walking to my car I looked back and saw the man walking towards me. I was immediately terrified and ran to my car, got in, and locked the doors, and he just stood around the lobby entrance acting like he was just hanging out there. I had many terrifying encounters like this since college, and recently I'm just so profoundly sad and angry that women have to go through this all the time. I came across a new song called 12-Minute Walk by Bow Anderson, and I really just felt like crying at the last part where it's just a lot of girls checking with each other if they've reached home safely because I do this with my friends. I also had to buy a pocket angel that I keep on my handbag for self-defense, and I hope I never have to use it. Stay safe out there. I was walking in a rush one evening because I needed to go home. I crossed the street diagonally on purpose so that I didn't cross in front of this girl on the sidewalk. However, she started speed walking and got straight in front of me. I speeded so that I could overtake her ASAP and end the awkwardness, but she just kept speeding even more. She had much shorter legs than me. I was only a few meters away from home, and I had my son home alone, so I kept at the same speed. She must have felt that I was a pervert, and I hated that she was scared of me when I'm harmless. I'm usually always on the opposite sidewalk at night when there are women alone, but this girl just decided to run when I was crossing the street way ahead of her.